Board games, board games. I am gonna talk about board games, board games, but I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing. And today I'm out in the park. It's meant to be sunny, but really it's quite dark. The sun isn't visible through these clouds, but still, board games are something that we can talk about. I'll talk about the suitability of games for the individuals and how publishers, and it's quite similar to finding people, and ultimately you need to find a USP, and it's hopefully not too controversially. You need to find what's unique about your game so you can show it off as a wonderful freak. Board games, board games is what we're talking about. Board games, board games. I'm not going to shout. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. I am Bez, and this is Bezzy Beats and Briefer Blether every day at 10 a.m. UK time. And today there's not really much of a topic, but just because of after my meeting on Friday, I've been thinking about how, you can have anything could be a good game, but it's ultimately a good game is basically about its suitability for purpose. And so let's say you've got a game that's great for adults to play. I mean, if you get some 5-year-olds to play, that might be a terrible game for that purpose. It's all contextual. Now, hopefully that doesn't strike anyone as outlandish or anything, but I thought that we just drill into that a wee bit more. Let's start off, however, with some recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. So if you're watching this, let me know what's the last thing that you've tasted. For me, yeah, cooked some lovely coronation chicken last night. I was quite chuffed with myself. I had the chicken, I had some curry powder, I had a wee bit of chutney, a bit of broad beans, mixed it all together with some rice. It was so good. That was basically my breakfast, lunch, and dinner all combined. But the last thing that I tasted was some stout. It was meant to be milkshake stout with a hint of coconut, vanilla, and chocolate. I have to admit, it was incredibly subtle. It wasn't all that I had hoped for. But still, that's a couple of my recent highlights. Hello, Elaine. It is lovely to see you, and I hope that you're generally well. Have you been walking the dog? How are things? Oh, actually, I forgot. I had a banana as well this morning, just before I got out. So I was like, oh, I need some energy. So I did actually have some breakfast. But yeah, Elaine not only had a banana, but banana and oat cookies already made this morning. That's amazing. You must get up very early in the morning. Certainly a wee bit earlier than myself. Um, yeah, I don't really have any other recent highlights to chat about. Just, yeah, reading through a few things. I drew a wee comic that was incredibly silly and not meant to be well drawn. If you've not seen it, then look on Twitter or I guess on my personal Facebook page because I set it onto public. Um, because 3 people yesterday mentioned Squid Games. I had never heard of this, but it's such a popular thing that when I typed in squid, just to remind myself, what does a squid even look like? Squid Games, like looking up squid on Google search, like the top page, the entire page was entirely about Squid Games, nothing to do with squid at all. But yeah, anyway, so I drew a comic based on what I thought it could have been like, which I'm sure is not as good as the actual show. But yeah, I drew that. I yeah, pondered things, and yeah, I read a wee book about Kickstarters and marketing because sadly that is such a big part of game creation, which is part of what I want to talk about. Um, Elaine says, I've seen the first episode of Squid Games. Enjoying it so far. I also enjoyed your comic. I did find out afterwards what the actual show is about. And so I was like, oh, okay. I'm not sure if I feel okay now making light of this because, but hopefully, you can, yeah, like, I've no idea how serious, like, is it making serious social commentary? But, like, it feels like one of those things like maybe not to, but like I'm glad that people responded well to it, and it was, and apparently it's quite abstract so far. So yeah, that is recent highlights. Been watching shows and making comics, and I've been reading book, and we've had banana and oatmeal cookies. That sounds fantastic. Now is the moment for questionably quick questions. Is the next section. It's not an interrogation, it's just my suggestion. If you want to ask me a question, then ask them in the questionably quick questions section. Questionably quick questions. And whilst people think of a questionably quick questions, um, I am going to talk about a brilliant thing. Brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? And as a lane, the park does look great. I am actually going to say that will be the brilliant thing for today. That's a good shout. I've got this big field. Um, there's lots of space. There's a few individuals over there lining up for a game of football, and there's a little path. But yeah, there's all this space to just sit and I have spent evenings lying down in the grass, but then I realised that, oh, if you do that, then your legs get bit by all the insects. But it is lovely just having a bit of green space, and I think parks in general. I mean, not just this park in specific, and I am willing to disclose that I live fairly close to Downhills Park, but having that communal space, having that space where we can be individuals. I mean, there's like three wee people over there playing some sorts of football. There's a couple of people over there walking their dogs. There's, a couple of people over there with children in the stroller. There's some people over there lining up for the Sunday game. And yeah, for sure, I am. Don't worry, I am keeping. I'm not like getting too close to people. I assume you mean in terms of COVID. It gets dark quickly. Oh yeah, at evening. Yeah, yeah. I mean, for sure, evening can be a different scenario, but I think daytime. And one other lovely thing that I'm just going to show you about this particular park is, can you see that? Um, there is a little bit of a gym. So one of those outdoor gyms where you use your body weight, and so that is also a fantastic, brilliant thing. So yeah, that is my brilliant thing. And so yeah, if anyone has any, whoops, yep, understood. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, parks at night. So if anyone has any questionably quick questions, then please go ahead and ask. Otherwise, I'm going to chat a tiny bit about what I decided this morning, which is about USPs, finding a publisher, and finding your audience. Now, USP, for those who don't know, means unique selling points. And I think that you have to think about what does your game offer that other people's games don't offer, or what are you making that, like when it's a story, when it's a narrative. Frankly, when I've read the Da Vinci Code, if it was like, oh, this is exactly like the Da Vinci Code, then fine, that would actually be a fine book because loads of people have read it. They don't necessarily want to read the same thing again. It's all about the twists and the turns and being taken along for the ride. Conversely, games are by their nature, normally, again, like let's forget about time stories and exits and stuff like that, but generally, games are an infinitely replayable thing. And so there's no feeling of, ooh, I really love this game, therefore I want another game that does exactly the same thing, but with the details all changed. It's not like, oh, I love romantic comedies, therefore I want to grab. Ultimately, yes, you have to have difference in details. There needs to be some tiny twist. And I was thinking about this in terms of, in my mind, I'm gearing up to maybe print at some point a bunch of copies of a game about grabbing creatures that are totally different and watching out for turnips. Um, Hello, Rob. It is lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us. I'm just talking about USPs and trying to work out what makes your game unique. And in the instance of a game about grabbing creatures that are totally different and watching out for turnips, like what does make it unique? Well, there is the turnip mechanism, which I know it is reductionist to put it in that way, but there's this one aspect where you're not racing to grab the turnips. You can grab the turnips. uh, Very good dad joke. Rob says USPs like American legumes. No, as opposed to British broad beans or anyway. Yeah, USPs. Very good. Anyway, but yeah, so for my game, this turnip mechanism where you're not racing to grab the turnips, that there are enough turnips for everybody, but you want to think, when do I grab those turnips? Do I grab the turnips as soon as I'm struggling to grab my next card? Because the turnip is like, you can only grab 5 turnips in a game, otherwise you lose. And so both there's the strategy of when do you grab these turnips, you leave them until the end so you can go turnip, creature, turnip, creature, turnip, creature, turnip, creature, and grab up the last few, or do you do it in the middle when maybe there's a couple of creatures that you are unable to grab, so you grab a turnip to allow you to progress? At what point do you feel like your limits on progression is enough that you're going to grab a turnip? And that's actually, I mean, it's not a big strategic choice, but for the level of game it is, that is a choice. And that's something slightly different that isn't normally present in one of those kind of speed matching or grabbing or counting or reacting and getting another card game. I mean, it's a whole genre. I mean, I'm not just including stuff like Jungle Speed and Twin It, but also stuff where it's okay based on what color is most prevalent here. And Rob says, stands to reason. Turnips are good veg, but you can just have too many of them. Good thematic connection. Yes, it was entirely thematic. Yes, honestly, Gov. Anyway, the other unique thing about that game is the fact that you have to count the turnips. So you've got, yes, on each turn you grab the card that's not matching at all. So it's totally different. Yes, this creature is totally different. Yes, this creature is totally different. And I will admit that when I played with Mina on Friday, one of the game I messed up with the creature, two of the games I messed up with the turnips. And like you've got that two things in your mind, counting how many turnips did I take? Can I remember? Keeping that in your mind. But then we get to the problem of the game, which is, so you need a certain number of turnip cards per player. You need at least 5 per player so that everyone can grab their turnips. So it's not meant to be, there's meant to be enough turnips for everyone. As I say, it's not a how quickly can you grab them, just when do you grab them. Because of the need for a certain ratio of creatures to turnips, it's only a game for 2 to 3 players. Is that a problem? It kind of is, because it would really work nicely with 4 or 5. But then if I have 4 or 5, I've got to have so many cards that it takes it out of a standard print, and it's no longer really a Bezzy budget bag. At which point, well, do I just say, let's do I just increase the number of cards? Do I just increase the price? Or do I say, hey, here's a game for 2 or 3 players. If you want to play it with 6 players, you can. But you need to buy 2 copies. If you want to play with 4 players, you need to buy 2 copies. Basically, 1 copy takes you up to 3 players. And you could play with 12 players, but you need 4 copies. And I think that could work. And I think that the card distribution would actually work better because you don't want to have too many cards. And so in reality, what that then makes me think is maybe that itself, rather than treat it as a disadvantage, think to myself, how many games are there that really work well as a speed grabbing game that work with 2 or 3 players? And there you go, like Elaine says, I'm always looking for good 2 player games. And that's brilliant. And I thought to myself, can I, will people think, oh, Bez is just a money grabbing person who's saying, buy extra copies to buy 4 copies if you want to play with 12 players? And Rob says, if multiple bags can increase the player count, that sounds like a really good feature for a budget bag. And I think it is, but again, if I wanted to say, oh yeah, this is a 2 to 6 player game, but you need to pay a tenner for it, or a 2 to 9 player game, but you need to pay 15 quid for it, and that kind of, I don't know, it, I just, parts of me just wants it to be available to everyone. But again, when I do put it on Kickstarter, it would probably be you get the print and play feature. But I think based on what Elaine's just said, I'm always looking for good 2 player games. That gives credence to my thought that maybe like having that a good quick game, because yes, you can play Jungle Speed 2 players, but it's completely different rules, and it's not. You can play. I'm trying to think of. You can play Twin It 2 players, and actually it's fine. But having something where it, yeah, and Elaine says, I like that. You're giving the option, but not forcing anything. Rob says, money grabbing. It's not like you're adding minis, playmats, endless expansions, etc. And so, yes, I appreciate it, and I appreciate that. Yeah, but yeah, I guess sometimes you need to think about, these are my limitations, but can these limitations be turned into USPs? I mean, again, in an ideal world, with the same cards, it would be a 1 to infinite player game. But is that realistic? I mean, let's look at Tapestry. Yeah, I'm going to say it. Tapestry, apparently, I think it goes up to 5, and yeah, no, I don't want to play that. I don't want to play that 5 players. I've played it 3 players, and even there, it starts to slow down and feel like an overly long game. I feel like quite often when these games are X to Y player counts, if they're being honest, like there is a kind of optimal somewhere in there, and especially in games that are taking turns. I mean, yeah, it might just be me, but like I played Euphoria, and then with Xate, and Xate was like, oh yeah, this is a great game, let's play it. And then we played it, the 3 of us, and Xate was, yeah, that's the worst game I've ever had. I'm not going to play it at 3 players again. That's just a bad player count. And it's like, well, that's a bit unsatisfying. Why did you put 3 there? And sorry, it sounds like I'm really banging on against Stonemaier Games. And I just want to balance that out by saying that what Stonemaier Games did with Between Two Cities, that was really fantastic, where they say this is a 3 to 7 player game with a variant for 1 or 2 players. And I really appreciate that. I think that, yes, Between Two Cities, having that semi-cooperative nature, that is the key feature of that game. And so that was genius by, I want to say, Ben Rossett. Please forgive me if, and someone else, please forgive me, I'm forgetting the designers' names. And the publisher decided on the box to put 1 or 2 player variants to clearly identify that this is a separate thing. And I think that that's a really good way of tackling that issue. Anyway, that was that thing. And so, yeah, you do have to be mindful of the limitations. And realistically, if you're saying this is a 6 player game or 5 player game, is there genuinely that thing? Like I was saying to, I don't want to be name dropping. I said to someone on Friday, a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises. Yeah, I've worked out a 2 player cooperative variant and a 3 player mode, but it really, the best mode, in my opinion, is 4 or 6. Matthew O'Malley and Ben Rossett, thank you very much. Between Two Cities, yeah, that is. Yeah, and Elaine says there's always going to be ideal player counts for any game. I think that's probably true, but again, it does also depend so much on the players involved. And I think that when I look at, yeah, Enter Manhattan Project. So I played Manhattan Projects last Wednesday, and I just feel like with 5 players, sure, it took a wee bit longer, but it seemed to zoom around quite a bit more. When you're doing your own board bit, the next player can be getting on with what they're doing. Obviously, if there's a game where you're doing simultaneous stuff like Between Two Cities or any speed game, I mean, something like Jungle Speed, when you've got, frankly, I've played Jungle Speed at 10 or even 11 players, and I think that it's fine, but once you get to the highest player counts, it does become a lot more random because it's like, do you ever get stuff? And yeah, for sure, like Elaine says, the nature of the players isn't something in the designer's control, but I'm going to slightly challenge that. I'm going to say that no, in one way it's not. And honestly, like, just for the record, I do broadly agree with you. But I want to look at the edge case where, as designers, as publishers, as marketers, and as someone who's basically got a hand in all of that stuff, yes, I am able to choose who plays this game. And so if someone is unwilling to make noises, if someone's unwilling to be silly, they should not be playing a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises. So I think it's probably good that the nature of the game, that someone making noises is within the name of the game. And similarly, I'm going to just do it for all my busy budget bags. Just grab the essential nature of that game and puts it front and center. Because if you know, hey, this is a cooperative game, hey, this is a speed game, hey, this is a heavy strategic game, then anybody who doesn't like that sort of game will understand intuitively, hey, maybe this game isn't for me. And I think that's what I'm trying to get at. That fundamentally, you need to understand the essential nature of your game so that you can tell people about it, because it is connected to the marketing. And yeah, for sure, the production and the logistics and the marketing and the design and the development, all the stuff should be a holistic whole. And if I'm thinking in my mind, okay, this game that I'm currently working on as a stretch goal for the people who backed a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after some excuses, which is called a game about drawing creatures, complementing the drawings, then complementing the complements. So that game is all about complimenting people, and it's a lot of people wouldn't even say it's a game. Now, when I'm telling someone about it, I can say, yeah, it's not really a competitive game. In the By working out what the essential nature of the game is, I can work out how to maximize that in the design. Because in theory, I could have had an element of who gave the best compliment, let's vote for them, and that person who gave the best compliment wins the game. I could have done that, but I chose not to. I mean, there is, in theory, a little bit of a competitive nature when people are complimenting the compliments. You want to give a good compliment so that they can compliment your compliments, and you can feel, yeah, I gave a really good compliment. And so there's this competition within yourself. But to make that explicit, that feels like it's taking the game away from where it wants to be. And so what I'm really talking about there is focus. Like, games should be focused. Games should be all about, hey, this is the nature of this game. This is the raison d'etre. Maybe this game is all about the strategic complexity, all about the interlocking web of options, all about the okay, if I do that, then I'm allowed to do that, and then I'm allowed to trade resource A into resource C, and then trade resource C into the ability to manipulate resource B on that other player's board, and you've got this whole interlocking web. Or alternatively, I could trade resource A directly into resource B, but it's a bit more expensive. But is that a better thing, or should I be going this roundabout route to steal? You know, whatever. The point is that there are games, many games, and I enjoy a lot of those games, which are all about having this framework, and then you navigate it and you think what is strategically best. And if that is the raison d'etre of that game, then for sure you should definitely um, focus on that. You should think, what makes this game different? Is it just that it's like a new novel? Because frankly, with Eurogames, the people who play a lot of games are quite often drawn to playing a new Eurogame, then another new Eurogame, because you want to have that new puzzle to tickle your brain. It's a new web of interactions to discover, a new web, a new framework to navigate. And maybe that is what your game is all about. Maybe your game is about the really tight development and but yeah, I don't know if you were Elaine says, I'm lost. This is why I'm never going to be able to design a game. I don't know if you're lost by my talk about the fictional game, but basically what I'm saying is that think about the essential nature of the game. That essential nature of the game is what you have to keep in mind, both if you're talking to publishers and if you're talking to the general public to try to sell it. That's all I'm saying. And so, yeah, keep the nature of the game in your mind. Think in your mind, why is this game? What is good about this game? What is the good parts of this game? Design to that, have a focus, and yeah. Rob Trickley adds, new naming scheme. A game for 3 to 6 players who like acting out short scenes and linking them to cards depicting shapes. Is that based on I don't know any game like that. That sounds very abstract. Acting out short scenes and linking them to cards depicting shapes. So, do you get to see the shapes? That sounds like it could be a sort of Dixit. But anyway, I know that it's completely just yeah, a joke. But if that is a game that we're working on, I am curious to hear about it. Speaking of which, I am going to start wrapping up because, as I've said before, this season is a bunch of briefer blethers. So I am going to ask, over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. Over to you. And Rob says, not a specific game, just pulling that out of thin air. I mean, that sounds like a really cool idea, though. I mean, yeah. Are you? Yeah, I am honestly. I am interested in that already because, yeah, acting out short scenes and linking them to cards depicting shapes. That's not something that I've ever seen in any other game. But yeah, let's talk about what everyone's up to. I am going to probably sit down, do a tiny bit of reading, then do a good amount of walking, maybe listen to some podcasts, do some more walking, maybe actually I might buy some milk and then have some proper breakfast because I only had half a banana. And yeah, that's pretty much me. I don't have any special goals today. I'm just a bit of reading. That's what I'm up to these days. And thank you, Elaine, who says it sounds like a great day. So, what are you up to? If you want to share, if you don't want to share, then that's also okay. Um, now, what did I? Oh yeah, tomorrow I am going to be getting my laptop. So that's exciting. It is ready. So my laptop is going to be ready, and I will, after that point, be probably writing up some rules and getting back to digital work. Elaine talks about Rob's earlier game idea, saying it sounds a bit like monikers. Rob says, I'm not sure I'm the right person to make that scenes, acting scenes and connecting it to abstract shapes game, but if anyone wants to have a go ahead. Rob is about to go into town for the artisan market to see what they have there. Amazing. So is that like onion bagels and garlic croissants and fancy things like that? I really fancy some. Oh, I just feel like garlic should be in just everything. I would like a garlic cake, like a sweet. Oh, I wonder how that would go. Like a cake that's sweet, but with garlic in it. Hmm. Or banana bread, but with garlic in it. Hmm. Anyway, random thoughts. Elaine is filming today, ready for Tuesday, hopefully. Oh, wow. So you're doing the filming today, and then you're doing the editing like tomorrow, I guess. That sounds awesome. And, alright, you're never hopefully. Um, sorry, I think I slightly missed something there. Um, Rob says mostly crafty stuff, but probably some food at the markets as well. And I don't think Elaine's too impressed with the idea of banana bread and garlic. Ooh, the mead stall will be there, I know. Ooh, talking of which, I do have about this much mead, which is enough for like maybe 3 drinks. So I might have like a wee drink of that. Anyway, it has been lovely um, chatting in this vague format. I want to say, yeah, we've chatted about a good amount. We've chatted about the park being a brilliant thing. And there's the sort of exercise place, and that's a really brilliant thing. Just walking out, talking about doing a bit of reading and drawing a comic about Squid Games, which is not at all what's. Yeah, I the name may didn't, or no, it's called Squid Game, singular. And then I understand afterwards. Okay, that's. I think, interestingly, like we could probably talk about names like tomorrow, and that's a totally separate topic. But we talked about finding the raison d'être, focusing in on what's the unique parts about your game so that you can pitch it better to the public, so you can pitch it better to publishers. If you want to find me, I'm Stuff by Bez everywhere, and I am going to be streaming every day at 10 a.m. UK time. I'm not sure about the Tuesday. I might or might not do the Tuesday, but probably not the evenings. But I want to say thank you, everyone. You have been super amazing, and it's lovely to see you. And for sure, there is only one thing left to say. So, thank you, Elaine, who says, have a beautiful day, everyone. Yes, absolutely. Enjoy the filming, Elaine. Enjoy the market stall, Rob. Yes, we are many things. We might be wanderers out in the park. We might be readers after dark. We might be joyful people having a lark. We might be walking our dog who potentially might bark, but we are not wizards. And that's it. And so, yes. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go to do. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, Elaine. Bye bye, Rob. Have a wonderful day. And to anyone watching after the fact, have a wonderful evening, night, whatever it is, wherever you are. And see you tomorrow, maybe.